Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to another book review from me, your host, Logan Albright. I've been on a little bit of a philosophy kick lately. I feel like philosophy is one of the areas of my education that has been somewhat lacking. I mean, I've read a fair amount of philosophy in my life, but I don't feel like I've read enough to really grasp the subject. And so I've been kind of delving into some of the lighter, easier to read philosophical works recently. And I recently picked up a couple titles, and one of the titles I picked up was the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Of course, a classic of philosophical thought, goes back to the 2nd century AD, when Marcus Aurelius, as a Roman emperor, was writing down his thoughts and musings on how to be a better leader, how to be a better man, how to live life fully and appropriately. I like this kind of philosophy. I like the kind of philosophy that's about how to best live and how to make the most of life and that sort of thing. When philosophy gets more modern and a little bit more abstract, I have a little bit more trouble with it. When it's about things like, are we living in a simulation, and those kind of questions. Can we know anything is true for real? I tried to read Critique of Pure Reason and pretty much failed about halfway through that. Can we know anything for certain? That kind of stuff I'm not so interested in, but practical philosophy on how to live a good life is stuff that I am interested in. And so I wanted to read this, and I did. And it's not very long. It's like 150 pages or something. Pretty easy to get through, and it's basically a collection of his private thoughts. I don't think he ever intended to publish them. He certainly never intended to call them the Meditations. That was a title that was affixed afterwards on just how to get on in this crazy mixed up world. And I thought what I would do is kind of go through 5 lessons from this book that I really enjoyed and agree with. Maybe talk about one that I don't like, which I think he brings up a lot, but I disagree with. But before I do that, I want to talk about this edition. This is a modern library edition. I bought it because I like the cover art a lot. It's very cool. It is a new translation by Gregory Hayes. I have to say, not having anything to compare it to because I haven't read the other translations, but my initial impression of this translation is that I don't really care for it. It feels a little too modern to me. It feels a little too colloquial, American modern English, which I don't really like in an ancient text like this, something from 2,000 years ago. I prefer it to kind of have a sense of that ancientness to it. And that maybe this is, maybe this type of translation is more accurate to what the style that Marcus was writing in. Maybe he wasn't being super formal. Maybe he was using a lot of colloquialisms. But to me, I want these books to kind of have a little bit of gravity and a little bit of weight to them. And I feel that an older style of English, a more formal style of English, gives it that, which is something I value. When I read the Bible, for example, I really hate the modern Bible translations that try to make it sound casual. Like, there's nothing casual about it. It should be formal, and it should be kind of have a sense of reverence to it. And I feel the same way about any ancient text, not just religious text. You should have the weight of centuries on top of it. So I felt like this was a little bit anachronistic, and I didn't really like it that much as a translation. But the text is great. The message is great. And I'll go through a few things that I drew out of the text that I thought were worth mentioning and worth thinking about. The first thing is that he's very conscious of his own death and the death of everyone around him. And I think that's a good thing to be. He talks about how, being upset or bothered by small things is pointless because we're all going to die soon anyway. And the thing that upsets you won't be around for very long, and you won't be around for very long to be upset about it. All your enemies are going to die off pretty soon. You won't have to worry about them. So like getting stressed out and upset about the things other people are doing is kind of senseless because, it's all temporary. Everything is temporary. And so we should make the most of it while we can. It's not going to last forever. And we should always be mindful of that and think, why am I spending my finite existence on this planet being upset about something that's just going to disappear in a few years anyway? Seems kind of silly. So I think that's a really good message. The second message that I really like in this one, and this is very appropriate for the day and age that we are living in now, is this idea that other people can't hurt you unless you let them hurt you. And I think he's not here referring to physical wounds, like being stabbed. Obviously, other people can hurt you in that sense, but he's referring to kind of hurting your feelings, causing emotional or mental pain, that sort of thing. And I think that's really true. And I think it's something we've forgotten as a society a lot, because you hear a lot about, people being offended and being hurt and having their feelings hurt, and words are violence and that sort of thing. And I think that is a mistake because it disempowers the individual to take control of their own lives. It says, my emotional state and my inner serenity is in the control of other people around me instead of under my own control. And I don't think that's true. I mean, obviously, your control over your emotions and your control over your state of mind is limited. It's not perfect, but I think you can improve it with practice. That's sort of what meditation is all about. And it's not nothing. And so I don't think you should outsource your emotions to other people and let what they say about you or what they do affect your own emotional state too much, because you can have more mastery over yourself than you probably think you do. And I think by encouraging people to adopt that mindset, saying, I'm in control of my body, I'm in control of my emotions, I'm in control of my feelings, I'm in control of my mind, it's more empowering to the individual, and it doesn't leave you adrift in the sea of, oh, I hope someone isn't mean to me today, because you can't control that. You can control yourself. So I think that's a really good message, that don't let other people harm you. The only harm that they can really do to you is the stuff that you allow, and you don't have to allow it. I think that's a great message. And this sort of ties into the next one. These are all kind of related, but I think they're worth mentioning separately. And this is that you are in control of your own life. You're not in control of the lives of other people. And so you shouldn't spend your time getting upset about the actions of others and what they're doing and what they're, the kind of harm that they're causing in the world and the other stuff that they're up to, because you can't control that. What you can control is how you live. And you should live a life of integrity, of honor, of morality, of goodness, and you should try to be orderly and well-disciplined. And that's what you have the power to do. So doing that sort of thing empowers you and makes you live a better, happier life. And you're not getting stressed out about the stuff that you can't control that other people are doing. Keep your own house in order and don't worry about what other people are doing in their houses. And you shouldn't be disappointed in other people, because what did you expect? People are going to act according to their natures, and there's nothing you can do about that. So being disappointed in them is pointless. The only thing you can really worry about is that you are living the best life you can, and that you are being honorable and having integrity and treating other people well. That's what you should focus on. I think that's a great message. The next one I want to talk about is very similar to one that was in The Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius, which is one of my favorite philosophy books. I think it's an excellent, excellent book. If you haven't read it, you should. And he talks about that you shouldn't prize or value or seek after or be overly concerned with other people's praise, external praise. There's so many people who devote their lives to trying to get recognition and validation from others. They want to win awards. They want to get praise. And Boethius says, and Marcus Aurelius sort of echoes this, like, look at the kind of people who get praise. Look at the kind of people who get external validation. Look at the kind of people who give external validation. Are those good people? Are those admirable people? Are those people you care about and should be wanting to please? Generally not. There's a lot of unworthy people who get praise and validation and awards and money, and there's a lot of unworthy people who give out those things. So why are you, if the praise is coming from someone who has no authority to really give it, and if it's going to someone who doesn't deserve it, then it's not worth anything, and you shouldn't value it and you shouldn't pursue it. Again, focus on doing the best you can and don't worry what other people think. I think that's really good advice. It's something that I've kind of got hung up on in the past, where I'm, worried about other people I want other people to approve of the work that I do and approve of the things that I make. And it's just pointless. It doesn't help anything. And you're just going to betray your own morals and your integrity by trying to chase after that praise, which really isn't worth anything anyway. So I like that one a lot. And then the fifth lesson that I want to talk about is that change is the nature of the world. The world is defined by constant change. Everything changes. People were born, people die, situations change, fortune goes up, fortune goes down. You're lucky one day, you're unlucky the next. That's the way the world is. And it's futile to resist. And so you should embrace change, and you should go along with it and not be too traumatized by it, because it's going to happen no matter what. And so you should, enjoy the good times when they come. But if your fortune changes on a dime and you end up having bad times, and again, this is in Boethius, well, that's the way fortune is, and that's always going to happen. So you can't really you enjoyed the good half of it, you have to enjoy the bad half of it as well. And there's no point in being too upset about it. So I think that's really good advice too, because it's really easy to get, I'm sort of a resistant to change person by nature. I like things to be the way that they've been. And when things are suddenly changing, I sort of get freaked out about it a little bit. I'm like, oh no, everything's going to be different. But it doesn't really matter that things are different, just roll with it. And I think that's really good advice too, because it's just something that we're always going to have to deal with, and we're always going to have to put up with. So we might as well put up with it with good humor and good grace. And I think that's great. One of the points in this book that Marcus Aurelius goes over many times, which I sort of disagree with, is he talks about what's natural, and he talks about the logos, which is the organizing principle of the universe, the thing that it's sort of a quasi-divine idea about there's something that's ordering everything in the universe for a purpose. And I don't necessarily buy into that. And one of the things he says is, everything that's natural is good. Nothing natural can be bad because it comes from the logos, and the logos has a plan, essentially. I don't agree with that. I think there's plenty of natural things that are bad. There's plenty of natural things that are to be avoided. There's plenty of natural things that are worthy of lamenting. Again, we shouldn't let it dominate our lives and rule our emotions, but just because we can put up with something doesn't mean that it's good. And so I don't think everything that natural is good. There's lots of natural things that are terrible: disease, famine, earthquakes, natural disasters, tsunamis, poison. There's like all these poisonous plants. I know all these people who are like into natural food, and they're like, you don't want to eat any food that's unnatural. Only eat natural food. I'm like, well, being something natural doesn't make it good. There's like arsenic occurs in nature. All kinds of poisons occur in nature. Doesn't make something healthy just because it's natural. So I don't agree with that. But overall, I thought it was a really excellent companion of trying to understand how to live a good life, and how not to be too wrapped up in flimsy, unimportant things that are transient. One of the things that is said in the introduction, though, that I found interesting, and I agree with, is that Stoicism, because Marcus Aurelius is often held up as a pinnacle of Stoic philosophy, although I don't think he has self-identified as that. There's other Stoic philosophers who would call themselves that, but I think he was influenced by them, but didn't really think of himself in the same category. But Stoicism is mainly about like resisting suffering. It's like, how do I deal when bad things happen? How do I deal when, my luck goes south, or someone I care for is sick or dies, or I have money troubles, or I have health troubles? How do I deal with these bad things that happen in life? Because, the ancient world was a very brutal and difficult world to exist in. There was a lot of tragedy that happened, and people were dealing with that. And one of the criticisms people make of Stoicism is that there seems to be very little room for joy and love and the pleasure of life. It's all focused on like minimizing the bad things and not talking about the good things. One of the sort of Buddhist ideas that Marcus Aurelius has is like limiting attachment. It's like, why are you, so obsessed with good food and good drink and stuff? That doesn't matter anything. A nice piece of cooked meat is just a dead animal. Like you shouldn't take pleasure in those things, because then when you lose them, you won't be so upset when they get taken away. I don't agree with that either. I think that like the whole point of life is to enjoy it and experience joy, and to experience love, and to make the most of the time that we have. And so there's so many wonderful things in the world. There's so many just amazing, joyful, beautiful, awe-inspiring things. Like, you need to take time to appreciate those things as well, and not just be totally focused on like blocking out the bad things, because you can end up a little bit numb if you do that, and you don't want to be numb. If you feeling the bad things is a necessary part of feeling the good things. So that's sort of where I differ with Stoicism a little bit, I guess. But overall, I really, really liked the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's an easy read. I recommend it to everyone. You can get through it quickly, and it's something you can refer back to regularly to remind yourself when you're going through a hard time of how to deal with it. So there were 5 lessons that I took away from it. I'd like to know your thoughts. Please leave them in the comments below. And in the meantime, check back next week for another book review. I try to post them every Wednesday, and I think I may have another philosophy book next week. So if you like that, there'll be another one coming. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications. Check back every Wednesday for another book review. I'm also starting to do some bonus videos peppered throughout the week on other topics that I like, such as music and movies, basically all physical media. And I've been your host, Logan Albright. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.